Hello, welcome to Part 12, Questions 15 and 16 from the N400 Application for Citizenship. I'm Annie Karras, and I will talk about these questions today. So question 15, were you ever a member of, or did you ever serve in, help, or otherwise participate in any of the following groups? So this question is asking, were you in one of these groups? Were you ever a member of a military group? So a military group is like the United States military or the military from a government in your country. Paramilitary is like the military, but it's not an official part of the government. Police is a part of the government, but it is not a military unit. It is a group of people that protect the general public in a city or a town. Were you ever a member of a self-defense unit? Self-defense is to protect yourself and to fight to protect yourself or your family. Vigilante unit. So a vigilante unit is somebody like Batman, so somebody that fights crime or fights bad guys, but they're not a part of the official police or the official military. They work alone, and they're not part of the government in any way. A rebel group is a group that is against the government. A guerrilla group is also a group that is against the government. A militia is an army that fights sometimes with the government or against the government. We also have insurgent organizations. So this is also an illegal fighting group. It's not part of the military. It's not part of the police. So, were you ever a member of any of these groups? The answer to the question is no, I wasn't, or yes, I was. Here are some definitions for the terms that I talked about in the question to help you remember what each of these groups mean. So a military unit is a legal group. It follows the laws and respects human rights. If you were in a military unit in your country, this is legal and you can become a U.S. citizen. A paramilitary group or a militia is an illegal fighting group that doesn't follow the laws, but they help the army. Because they don't follow the laws and they are not part of official government, if you fought in a paramilitary or militia group, you cannot become a U.S. citizen. A vigilante group is like Batman. It doesn't follow the laws and you pretend to be the police. So again, this group is an illegal fighting group and you cannot become a U.S. citizen if you were in a vigilante group. Rebel, guerrilla, and insurgent groups also don't follow the laws. These are illegal fighting groups. They're not part of the military. They're not part of the police or the government. If you fought in one of these groups, you cannot become a U.S. citizen. This is a picture of a rebel group or a guerrilla group. This is a picture of a militia or paramilitary group. This is an example of a vigilante group. And this is an example of a military unit. So, in your interview, the officer might ask you the same question on the N400 application, or they might change the question to be a little bit simpler. It depends on your officer. So how will you answer these questions? What will you say? Try to answer these questions after I read them. Have you ever been a member of a military group? Were you a member of a military or paramilitary unit in your country? Have you ever been a member in a police unit? Were you a part of a vigilante or self-defense unit in your country? Have you ever been a part of a rebel group or a guerrilla group? Have you ever been a part of a militia or insurgent organization? So the answers to these questions are either yes, I have, or no, I haven't, if the question begins with have you ever. You can also answer these questions with yes, I was, or no, I wasn't, if the question begins with were you. So you must listen carefully to the officer. Listen for the beginning of the question. Okay, let's go to question 16. Were you ever a worker, volunteer, or soldier, or did you otherwise ever serve in any of the following? So this question is asking you, did you ever work, volunteer, or fight for in these situations? Were you ever a worker in a prison or jail? A prison or jail is where bad people go when they commit a crime. A prison camp. A prison camp is a place where people are forced to stay during a war. Detention facility. Detention facility is a place where people need to stay and they cannot leave. For example, when people come over the border of Mexico and try to come into the United States illegally, ICE, or Immigration Customs Enforcement, will put these people in detention facilities and they have to stay until they can be released or go free. Labor camp is a camp where people are forced to work and they cannot leave. All of these places are like prisons or jails, but they just have different situations why people would be there. So were you a worker or volunteer or soldier in any of these places? Oh, they might ask you, were you ever a worker in any other place where people were forced to stay? So in all these camps or jails or facilities, people were forced to stay. Forced means you cannot leave. Forced to stay means you must stay in these places and you cannot go home. So were you ever a worker, volunteer, or soldier in these places? You can answer yes, no, I wasn't, or yes, I was. If you answer yes, you need to be prepared to explain which one you worked in and explain to the officer the situation. Okay, let's practice. What will you say? Try to answer these questions when I read them. Have you ever worked in a prison or detention facility? Have you ever worked in a labor camp? Have you ever worked in a place where people were forced to stay? You can answer these questions, yes, I have, or no, I haven't, because the question begins with, have you ever? So again, you must listen carefully for the first part of the question. Okay, so please practice questions 15 and 16 this week, and you will be ready for your citizenship interview in the future.